And here we go. Let's dive into this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our virtual career day series. My name is Josh Walker. I'm an architect coming to you live from my home because, like you, most of us are learning and working from home these days. If this is your first time joining us, this is our effort at HKS to introduce you to one of the largest architecture firms in the world and the many kind of professionals it takes to make it happen. We design everything from stadiums, skyscrapers, hotels, hospitals, and we have over 1,000 people from all industries who help make that happen. Architects, accountants, interior designers, engineers, human resources, researchers, and everything in between. There's a place and role for everyone. Now we've got a list. So here's who all we've talked to so far if you've missed any of them. Sustainability engineer Mike Brown, Director of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Giselle Santos Rivera, Architect Daisy Cadet, Interior Designer Delia Schlois, Architectural Photographer Daryl Shields, Design Director Dan Flower, Writer Julie Wellick, Researcher Casey Lindberg, Spanish language interview with Architect and Office Director Salvador Rivas, and Construction Administrator Ray Stubblefield, Regional Director Angela Lee. You can find all of those episodes here on our link on our Instagram, TV, or YouTube, and we encourage you to check those out. Now, I've been teasing this one for a while. Every week I talk about HR, and finally we're getting to it. I'm excited about this. We have a professional in what we call our Professional Development Department, Learning and Development Manager, Adam Boykin. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Josh. Thank you for having me, man.
Our absolute pleasure. So I start every week with the same question. Warned you about this one. If you go back to your high school days, what did you think your career would be?
Man, let's see. High school. High school was such a long time ago, but I don't even know if I had an idea of what my career would be. Honestly, I was really thinking about just high school things, not really thinking about career too much. But the one thing that I knew from the beginning is that I always wanted to help people. That was kind of the thing that I wanted to do. But so it didn't really matter if it was an interest in business or law. The ultimate goal was really to help people in the very end. So I think that, you know, when you look back, high school is a lot different than where you are now. And so it helps that you stick to your values throughout.
Interesting. So where did you decide to start when you were applying for colleges? Like, what did you think you would apply for?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I was a pretty smart kid. I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I was all right. And so I knew I was going to probably stay in Texas. I didn't want to stay in my very small town. So I ended up applying to UTA, University of Texas at Arlington. And so that's where I went to school at. It was a nice mix of not too big because I was a small country boy, and not too small because I did want to experience the city. So it was more of a practical thing. Thinking about it, wanted to get away from home a little bit, but I still had family up here in DFW, so that helped out a lot.
Yeah, that does. That's one of the reasons I ended up settling down in DFW after college.
Yeah.
So it sounds like almost where you went was more important than what you decided to study. Is that the case?
Well, you know, I think when you're just, like I said, when you're in high school, you know, life is, you think differently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew I was going to study business no matter what. That was kind of the intention, but it wasn't like I had an idea of what my career would look like. So I was trying to figure out, you know, like I needed to be in a spot where I could, you know, easily get back home to see my family and things like that. But ultimately, I was assured with myself that no matter where I went, I would come out on the other side where I needed to be. I just needed to make that decision.
Okay. So you started studying business. How did that then translate to HR and kind of the path that you ended up in?
Yeah, so part of business is a very wide range of things you can do, everything from accounting to finance, and HR is part of that. So, you know, you have to kind of go through a lot of different subject matters really to kind of see what, you know, you're good at. You had to take all of them. I took the finance classes and things like that. And when I got to HR, you know, it was like, oh, this is more about people. And well, I said I wanted to help people. So that was kind of the thing where I wanted to kind of be at. And I didn't really want to be like totally in the HR field where it was like all the employment law and things like that. Kind of wanted to stick more on the more happy side of it, so to speak. And with that, that's kind of where I kind of went into the training and development side of HR, because I could connect with people, help people grow, but at the same time, I still had that background in human resources.
Interesting. So what kind of job did you first land to help you get into the training and development?
Well, I didn't really land a job. I was working at Blockbuster, trying to make my way through college because I was a poor college kid. And
Yep.
I was a manager there, not making a lot of money. Don't let the title fool you. But and we had got bought out by Dish Network at the time. And when that happened, my boss was like, "Hey, I really think you should like lead the training efforts for Dish Network." And I was like, not really. I really don't want to do that. And she was like, no, you should really do this. This is kind of your thing. Aren't you going to school for like your MBA and stuff like that? And I was like, well, yeah. And so with that, I got to hire some people and start to lead the training and development for that effort right there. And turned out I wasn't halfway bad at it. And that combined with some of the classes I was studying at the time in school really led me to kind of really push towards that path. And I did that, and I've been doing that ever since.
Okay. So one thing I like about this story is sort of the incidental way you found your calling, because you knew what your values were, and values are important, absolutely.
Yeah.
We hear from a lot of the people in this series that helping people was the driver that drove them to where they were, even if it looks very different across the professions. And so you finding your way to do that is really interesting. So if you knew that you wanted to help people, but Blockbuster wasn't exactly the long-term career project you would hope for, what did you do after that eventually led you here?
Yeah, Blockbuster was going through some struggles at the time. That was not a fun time to be an employee of Blockbuster at that point in time. So I knew I needed to get to somewhere. And the beautiful thing about training and development is that any industry is an option because every industry needs training and learning and development. So you're not like handcuffed to say, oh, I have to work in the finance industry or I have to work in the consumer industry. You can really expand your horizons. So, with that, I ended up I was working at a warehouse where they sold cell phones via the internet. So I worked there. I worked at Raytheon for a very short amount of time. And then I went to work in finance, which was more my thing because I did have a business background in finance. But I worked there for about 4 years. And, that's kind of really where I was really starting to lead kind of the learning and development in a much larger capacity for an organization. And then from there, I came to HKS because, the one thing that I really wanted to focus on, a lot of times training and development, you can really focus on the technical side of it. What do financial advisors need to know from a technical aspect? What do architects need to know from a technical aspect? But the one thing that I really wanted to make sure was happening was that I got to focus on the person, the actual professional development of people. And so when I came to HKS, they really gave me the opportunity to do that. And, HKS designs buildings that last, far past the people that designed it, and they have lasting impacts. And I wanted to make sure that the work that I did had lasting impacts on the people that I worked with.
Yeah, and if anybody is considering a career in architecture, let me warn you now, it requires a lot of ongoing training and education because the industry is always evolving. And Adam is one of the people that helps us do that effectively and in a way that builds the firm up. So let's get into the technicals a little bit of it, Adam. What does your job look like on a day-to-day basis if you're trying to build professionals?
I mean, I can't give you a standard thing because it's unexpected. The job changes so much. The thing about professional development is that so goes the state of the firm, so goes your job. When we implement a new strategic plan, then my job shifts. So if we're going one direction, then suddenly we're going this direction. And we really are the engine behind getting people on board with strategy, helping people to understand the why behind what we're doing. And so a lot of times you have to be flexible and ready to go with the day. Some days I come into work and I'm like, I'm doing A. And then they're like, so we're going to do B. And I'm like, all right, then let's go. And we have to be able to adjust really quickly and on the fly. But I like it because you really have an opportunity in this department to have an impact on moving the needle, whether that's in society and getting people to have better working conditions or understanding in their own personal life how to be better individuals, what drives them, what motivates them. So you really have the opportunity to move the needle. So you have to be ready with, flow with the punches.
That's interesting. So there's a little bit of creating coursework, a lot of personal consulting and individual management, and a lot of change. The only constant is change, right?
Only constant.
You must have had a lot of work in the past 2 years, because I know we rolled out a new strategic plan, and then immediately it seems like after that COVID changed everything. And then after that we had the whole wave of social unrest, and the firm has done an excellent job of responding to that and finding a voice for the company in that process. But that's put extra work on you and your team too. So how do you deal with all of that constant change?
Well, I think you just have to keep your eye on kind of what the bigger picture is. And like I said, I am very fortunate that I get to be in a position where I can make a difference. There are some times when you're, kind of subject to what people what decisions people make for you. And I am very fortunate in my position to be able to have a voice, to influence and things like that. So, you have to keep that front of mind. So even when the changes are coming, and like you said, we had a new strategic plan that happened, and that did require a big shift. We were traveling around to the offices, across the globe, really spreading that message. And then COVID happened. And it felt like, oh man, it's more change. And then the social unrest is more change. But when you keep your eye on exactly what matters, which is the fact that this is an opportunity to make things better for the 1,300 people that work here at this firm. And then you really can understand and say, okay, it's going to be tough, but let's do it, because this is about making a difference with people's lives.
So let's talk about one more thing. Like, I'm imagining the hardest part of your job is that you are trying to initiate change and people don't want to change. I mean, I see that on my own team. I feel it in myself. Somebody comes in and says, hey, you're doing this, do this instead. And there's that inertia of what we're dealing with, where it's like, I don't have time to learn a new thing. I'm overloaded here as it is. How do you deal with trying to institute and manage change in people who, maybe don't have the time for it or really want it?
Yeah, perspective. That's how you deal with it. No one really likes change. They say they do, but then until it really impacts them, they're like, oh no, you change, not me, but you change. And that's real, because change comes at the most inopportune time. Change comes when things are flowing well. But the perspective is that you have to be able to look at people and say, all right, I understand why you may not want to change, because things are flowing, because you don't have the capacity, the time to make these changes. But then you have to be able to, stick with it and offer them value and say, this is why the change is good. And it takes patience really to stick with it. We don't win over everybody, but it takes that patience to say, hey, look, I understand where you may be coming from, but this change is necessary, and it really is to help you out. And, once again, keep your eye on the prize and the values that you can bring and the change that you can make.
Absolutely. Last question before I let you go. What does it take to be good at your job? Like, if I'm going to go into your profession, what skill or characteristic would you look for?
Well, I don't know if anybody would consider me good, but what does it take to be successful? I would say it's just, you have to have the passion really for people, really, and understanding what they need to push them in a better direction. The thing that we talk about in our department all the time is that, I am here to make you better on, a variety of fronts, whether that is the technical things you need to learn to be an architect, whether that is the personal development you need to be a better professional, what drives you, how you communicate, things like that, and whether that is the culture and the workplace and where we work. Those things are so important, and you have to be passionate about all of those things in order to make a difference. It's not going to be easy every day, but it is an opportunity that everybody is not afforded. So it's something that you should take and really be happy about.
Well, that's a great word of advice to end on. I want to thank you for joining on with us, and thank everybody for watching this. I have a small announcement for you. This is not our final episode, but it is our second to last episode. Next week will be our last issue of the Virtual Career Day. We are so thrilled that we've had the opportunity to do this with you, and that hopefully you'll take this and enjoy it and learn from what we're doing. Next week, we have a professional that's on the cutting edge of architectural design and really breaking new ground on what design can do for us. And so I'm very excited to share that interview with you. Join us here, same time, same place next week. Don't forget all of the former episodes that I talked about. You can find them on our Instagram Live or on our YouTube. This episode will join them very shortly, and we want to thank you all for joining us. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, and thanks again.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you.